Let's go.
What's up? How are
Chris,
you?
my brother, how you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
I am blessed, bro. I am super happy that we're connecting and we're meeting through this online world as I was checking you out and we've been kind of sending some messages back and forth, brother.
Yeah.
Yo, let me just start off by first of all introducing you to people that don't know Chris. He is a real estate broker from the United States, predominantly in Denver and in Houston, which we're going to talk about. It's interesting that you're doing those two cities, as well as a podcaster with a very popular podcast that we'll jump into as well. And for your community, my name is Chris Dedeyan, and I am a professional speaker and a peak performance coach. So, my brother, first and foremost, man, how are you doing? How are you feeling nowadays?
I'm feeling great, man. I'm feeling great. Never been better. How about yourself?
I am blessed as well, especially things that are opening up right now. And you guys, I'm actually in Montreal in Canada up north. So
Yep.
where are you at right now? Are you in Houston or are you in Denver?
I'm in Denver right now. And I have
Okay.
this little like world thing behind me. And so I
Okay.
like to just travel and be everywhere. You can't really see it from that screen, but there it is.
There you go.
Yeah. So I just love to be everywhere and nowhere, wherever I want to be, I can be.
I love that ideology, bro. I love that ideology because I'm the same thing. I do not believe that we are trapped in the area code that we're born in. I do
Right.
believe that we should think about being like international in some way, shape, or form, going wherever you want. But tell me, it's very interesting. How are you a broker, or how do you develop your brokerage company in two distinctive cities that are not that close? Like Denver and Houston are not really that close. So how do you do that? Where's your primary like sector essentially? How
Yeah,
do you do
yeah.
that?
That's a great question. So I guess I should first start off by saying that the inspiration for even doing what I'm doing now really came from when I read The 4 Hour Work Week back in 2017. I still had a corporate job. Half of the things in the book, I was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get a virtual assistant and, leave the country and do different things and have these little mini vacations or mini retirements, as Tim Ferriss talks about. And so I had the seed planted in my mind so that when I started to do the entrepreneur thing and got into real estate, I wanted to build it in a way that didn't tie me where I had to be somewhere for 40 years and have my face on all the bulletins and only be in one location. And so I really moved to Denver mostly because I wanted to just change things up, be close to the mountains and to nature.
Okay.
But I've built my business in a way where in Houston, all I'm doing is texting clients and calling them and having conversations on what are they looking for, what do they need help doing. And I already established the relationships while I was there with people who are picking up signs for me or putting lock boxes on new listings or showing houses to clients while I develop my team here and I start to network here in the Denver market. So really just automating and delegating as much as possible. That's been the secret to how I'm still closing deals when other people think that you really have to be there doing everything yourself. You don't. You just need the right people on your team.
I love that. I love that ideology. Essentially, what you did is you put some systems in place, you
Yeah.
created relationships over there. So you have people that are knocking on the doors for you or putting down the for sale sign and so on and so forth. Now, before doing that transition, I'm guessing you built Denver first, right? Is that what I'm understanding correctly?
So I actually built Houston first, and I just moved here a couple months ago in March. It
Okay,
was
that
on a
makes sense.
whim, everything's like up in the air. We weren't sure how things were going to go with the whole last year. And Houston, my business has been having record months. I've been doing better than ever. That team is kind of established and on autopilot.
I
I'm
get
getting
you.
business, I'm getting referrals. And we kind of visited last year, and we loved it out here in August. The weather is beautiful, sunny, so many outdoor activities. And we just figured, hey, what the heck? Why don't we just move here? I'll figure things out. I did it before, I can do it again. And so I've been maintaining that remote business while building it up in Denver as well. So I kind of moved here without a plan.
Nice.
But fortunately, I've still been having record months in Houston, even though I'm not there. It's like not even an issue for most of my clients.
That is amazing. And do you see that? Because now it's been only 2 months that you kind of left
Yeah,
Houston, and obviously the company's still going that way. And in brokerage, like very much like brokerage businesses are associated with the face of the broker in itself. So, Chris, it's your face. Now, do you
right.
see that business evolving even though you're not physically there anymore and your colleagues that are other brokers over there working within your team will bring that to the next level? Is that a goal, or it's really something that you want to do transition and then whatever happens there happens? If it dies off, it dies off. What you want to do is really build Denver. Is that how you're looking at it, or you want to build both in a high
I'd
level?
like to build both. I mean, what I'm really looking for is that lifestyle business, right? I don't like the idea. I understand people like me, trust me, want to work with me, but I always let them know up front, hey, it's not always going to be me because I don't want them to get surprised when I don't show up to show them the house they're going to feel like, I'm kind of the product in my own way. Like you said, in the
Mm-hmm.
brokerage, real estate agent space, you kind of are the product. People want to work with you. They want to have you show them the homes and all of that. But if you set the expectations up front, which is what I've been doing, I'm like, hey, I'm still going to be blessing this and letting you know what I think and reviewing reports from afar. With technology, we can do almost everything, just share screens on Zoom,
Mm-hmm.
do e-signatures, and I don't have to be the one turning the key and literally opening the door for you, right? So I'm just letting them know, but I'd like to build it bigger than myself. I know personal brand is very important. You see all these big names,
Mm-hmm.
Gary Vaynerchuk, people listen to him, follow him. He is a person of influence. I see that for myself, but I don't want to have to be like Ryan Serhant. If you look at him, he's not there doing those things anymore. He's on TV and doing interviews, and his team, he's got the Serhant brokerage. He's not the one, hey, I'm going to be showing you all the houses this week. No, he's at the next level where his team does that. You're working with his name and his brand, and you just trust that he's training his people up to give that quality of service that he would have delivered on that individual basis.
I love it, bro. You know exactly what you're doing. You're very thought out and methodical for the approach of your business structure. So congratulations with that.
Thank you. I appreciate
And
it.
yeah, definitely. And I love the fact that you kind of mentioned the Gary V's of this world and Sirhan, which I think you're essentially what you're
Yeah,
modeling
you
is
don't get
100%.
access to that person, right? You can't just call Ryan Serhant right now. He's not going to answer.
No, exactly, exactly. So then my next question, because you did say you kind of want to go into that, having that name and that brand, such as Gary Vee and Sirhan, how are you going about doing that? Because I'm guessing your podcast is a big way towards that, but like, how else are you doing it? How's your
Yeah,
strategy towards that?
absolutely. That's a great question. So I've learned from a lot of mentors over the years in podcasts and books and just Gary Vee, jab, 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 right hook, add
Hmm.
value, just create relationships, have conversations like you and I are having right now, and just putting goodwill out there and kind of
Hmm.
feelers of what I'm looking for, what I'd like to do, and just being open to the infinite opportunities and possibilities that are out there. Because I might not even know what I don't know yet, right? I may have an opportunity 2 years from now that seems like that's the one that I want to go all in on and pursue and kind of just automate the real estate business fully. But in terms of the branding, I understand that's important. So here I'm working on building a local like investor brand and website, house buying type of presence, while also partnering with other people who are more on the retail traditional real estate side.
Hmm.
Hey, we're going to list a house for you on the market and stage it, and I'm kind of taking on that. We'll buy the property as is, cash, no MLS, no photos, none of that, no open houses. And that way I'm just building relationships in a way where that's how I see it developing 5 years from now. All these things are happening on their own, and I'm just connecting the dots. And so the same thing with the podcast, it's a platform. If I meet somebody or a listener who wants to buy or sell anywhere in the world, I'm able to capitalize and get a referral commission by just introducing them to the realtor who's local to that area. And so
100%.
I'm kind of just creating the framework and the network, and then seeing which opportunities present themselves that may be a fit for what I align with and resonate with.
Awesome. So what I hear, and correct me if I'm wrong, what you want to go towards is a form of real estate investing and essentially some type of flips, real estate holdings, or ASM, apartment
Absolutely.
syndication. That's where you're going
Right,
towards?
right. So basically, I guess if I had to put it in simpler terms, it's more of being that lead generation source. If I've got
Okay.
the machine generating the leads, I control what happens to them, right? I can wholesale it or flip it or buy it as a rental property, or if it doesn't make sense that way, send it the traditional route. So I can still capitalize on that transaction in a multitude of ways. So I kind of just want to be in control of the leads and the deals, and that gives you the opportunity, because if you can source those, you've got options. If you can't, you have to kind of pay the fee for other investors who find these deals, and you're kind of losing those margins along
Hmm.
the way.
Hmm. Brother, now you're talking about business and in a sense that like you're definitely building something and you have a great grasp, what I understand, of delegating, of putting systems and processes in place and being productive. And you have actually something within your website with productivity, which we'll talk about in an instant. But if we
Sure.
talk about for entrepreneurship, because I have a huge entrepreneur like viewership, what is the best way that you have found to put systems and processes in place within your business so you could really step out of your business and not be an employee of your business, but be a manager, CEO, and essentially tilt the realms of the business to the level that you want to take it?
That's a great question. So there's a lot of different softwares and tools available. Many of them are free, and many of them have premium I don't even really hardly pay for the premiums on many of them. I think I
Hmm.
mainly pay for Calendly and Zoom, but again, it depends
Yeah.
on the business model, right? So for me, it's very personable. Having that initial conversation face to face, at least over a video call, that's kind of me being the product and setting the goodwill and the expectations and letting people know so and so is going to take care of you the rest of the way, and I'll be here if you need anything. So for anyone listening right now, it really depends on what your business is and what you need to automate. But then use tools like, for me, I use Calendly. I send a link to everyone. They can
Yeah.
book a time for a phone call, a Zoom call, a coffee meeting, a lunch meeting. I literally have like 15 of these individualized links for a podcast, 30-minute versus 1 hour. And so now, anytime someone's like, hey, what's your availability in 2 weeks? I'm like, I don't know. Here's my link. It knows because it syncs up with my calendar in real time. So I just saved myself 5 minutes of, does Wednesday work or does Thursday work? Does my morning work, or what time zone are you in? Right? So it just, and you did the same thing too for me to get on this call. And I saw the automated emails and reminders. We no longer have to do these old school manual things. And so there's a bunch of little things in our businesses that we can automate. I use Zapier to integrate. So when
Hmm.
someone signs up with Calendly, there's a zap or an integration that drops their information into my email list, and so I can capture their information and connect with them. And all these little things that I used to rely on my memory alone on, I dropped the ball. Right? We can only remember so many things. It's very important to actually draw your process out on a whiteboard, and again, it's going to vary for all of us, and just figure out what are the things that I'm doing manually that there's some piece of software or some tool or even a person who can just do this thing better than I can. So I can
I love it.
focus on higher and higher level activities.
I love it. I love it. First and foremost, you said Zapier. I don't know that app, so I'm gonna go check it out because you just said that from your Calendly, you get the information. It goes automatic to your newsletter. Is that what I
Yep.
understand?
And you can automate. Basically, Zapier, I guess it has the word API or the letters API in it to integrate. You can basically Frankenstein like connect. So it's a Frankenstein tool. You can connect a Zap from here to there. I can drop people who sign up to an event on Eventbrite can go to a Google Sheet, and then when it adds to the Google Sheet, it can send an automated email to like my assistant. So all kinds of cool things. So I really recommend people check it out. And again, they have a free plan, but if you have more than a certain amount of activity, then you might have to pay like 30 or 40 bucks a month or whatever it is.
Nice. So
Yeah.
I love all that. So you just mentioned a couple of them, and one that you mentioned really that I talk about a lot with all of my coaching programs or one-on-ones or consulting is really the aspect of Calendly. I 100%
Yeah.
agree with you.
I
Just the
love it.
aspect of
That's my
having
favorite
that.
tool so far.
Honestly, man, you save so much time. Like I have so many people booking stuff on my agenda, and I have teams working on stuff like from my podcast to this to meetings with like
It's a
discovery calls. Like
lot.
it really
I
is.
mean, you
And
need like a full-time person just to manage that alone if you didn't have a tool like this. And with Calendly, you don't even need a person to manage your calendar like that anymore. It's like, I don't know, just use this link and it'll do it for us. We don't need someone
100%.
sending emails and reminders because now the software does it automatically.
That's exactly it. It really is something that has changed definitely my perception as an entrepreneur on that. And so I do agree. And brother, let's talk about productivity because, like I said, I do know
For
that you
sure.
have like a productivity hack system and all that stuff. So, but tell me about productivity because I love productivity as well. Always talk about it. Always coach my clients on it. So always willing to learn on it. So what's your ideology within that aspect?
Awesome, man. So productivity, I mean, it's been something, and I studied supply chain in college and I worked in a supply chain role in oil and gas. So I've always been driven to find the inefficiencies, eliminate them, automate steps where possible, maybe even remove things that don't make sense. You know, a lot of times you start doing stuff because you've done it before and now you hand it off to somebody and they're just doing this random report that nobody even looks at. And you realize like we've been wasting this person's time for the last 5 years doing something that no one even cares about anymore, or that you have a tool that can just do what they're doing manually, right? So being ruthlessly productive and efficient has been something that's really big to me. Like I don't answer unplanned, unscheduled phone calls for the most part. There's so many spam calls. And it sounds
Mhm.
cold or funny, but I even sent the booking link to my parents because they'll just text me like, hey, Chris, are you free for a call? And I'm like, I'm usually not just sitting around free twiddling my thumbs. I've got an appointment or I'm on a call or I'm, having a massage or whatever. So I really push people, everybody, even my parents included, like use this link and I promise. It's like that little Batman light. I always joke lately, like it's that Batman light. You turn it on, you book a call, I will show up. But if you don't, I can't guarantee that I'm going to answer because I may be in an appointment. And so anytime I have a new thing that comes my way, a new problem, maybe some repetitive task that I keep doing, I always just step back, and before I just do it, a lot of us just do it and do it and do it. And then we spend 5 minutes here, we waste 10 minutes there. And now you wasted 3 hours on very low level activities. I kind of ask myself, is this the best use of my time? Can I delegate this to somebody? Or better yet, is there a piece of software that can automate it so that this thing is just off my plate? And that way, like, we can't automate this thing, you and I talking right now, at least right now. I don't know, maybe with CGI we probably could. But you and I are here talking, but all those other little steps to get the scheduled and the reminders, that can be automated, right? So just anytime anybody gets something, ask yourself, is this the best use of my time? And if it's not, find a way to eliminate it, delegate it, or automate it. So hopefully that kind of just captures everything, because there's so many things that we do that's kind of a waste of time, you know?
100%, 100%. So essentially just optimizing where you're supposed to spend your time and the places that you could optimize it through resources, through applications, through virtual assistants or so whatever, and just utilize that. And Chris, as I'm listening to you speak, you know what you're talking about, definitely. And my question is, how do you get your knowledge? Do you get this knowledge? You did mention you read the book 4 Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. Do you mostly get it through reading books? Do you have mentors? Do you have coaches? Are you just somebody that's really into personal development? Is it by doing the podcast interviews? Where is the main source of knowledge that you acquire, essentially?
I definitely would say podcasts and books. Oftentimes podcasts are nice conversational. You can listen while you're driving. You know, you don't have to pay 100% close attention, and you could still get nuggets and ideas, as well as books. I mean, I mentioned 4 Hour Workweek, like you just brought up, was very transformative for me in terms of thinking like, how do I find a VA? How do I think like a business owner who works on the business instead of in the business? And I have other people who've been in my field of real estate 10, 15 years, and they still use a handwritten planner, and they forget stuff, and they don't show up on time, and they print things out for clients. I don't print anything out. I don't even have a printer. Like, you don't need one anymore, right? So just being very forward thinking. But to answer the question in a short way, I'd say books are great, but I know a lot of people are strapped on time, and it requires you to sit down and actually read it. You can't really do that while you're driving. It kind of gets shaky on a plane sometimes too. So Audible has been very great for listening to a book. Obviously, it's harder to listen to an audiobook if you're just at home. It's easier if you're driving or you're doing something else that requires your attention. So I'd say books and audiobooks have been what I've toggled between. And then one quick note too is to do just in time versus just in case learning, because sometimes just in case we read a book that we'll never really use or doesn't apply to a problem that we're dealing with. But if you work on just in time, like whatever problem you're dealing with right now, like if you're not closing deals or you can't convert clients or leads, read a book on how to do that, and that'll solve that next problem. And that way you're constantly getting to that next breakthrough.
I love that. The last part you just mentioned, really highlighted over there, is that I believe, like, let life kind of guide you and bring the information that you need. Because right now you could pick up a book and you could read it, and I could read exactly that same book, and it's going to resonate with me in one way, like it's going to resonate with you in another way. Right. And that same book maybe is not going to be valuable for you right now, but maybe in 6 months you're going to read it like, oh my God, this makes sense, or vice versa.
Example.
So yeah, I love that. So allow yourself to go towards what you need. So like you said, if you're having a hard time in sales, go pick up a sales book. If you're having a hard time connecting with your loved one, go pick up a book on communication. I do believe
Absolutely.
And Chris, I want to talk about like your podcast. I was checking it out. It got some great views, downloads, so on and so forth. How long have you been doing it? Like, why did you decide to start? Well, why, you kind of answered it, but you could kind of relate to that. Like, how long have you been doing it, and how do you start a podcast? Like, some people are very much interested in starting podcasts, but they have that like idea of like, hey, it's tough. Is it oversaturated right now, the market? Talk to me about your podcast world and what your ideology is with that.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So October 2017, I believe, I remember putting out a blog post saying, I'm starting a podcast. And I put it out there and I spoke it into existence. But also I posted it on LinkedIn and Facebook and everywhere. So now everyone knows I said I was going to do it. So that kind of adds that pressure of, well, I better do this. And for some reason, it's just been something that's ingrained in me of being consistent. When I say I'm going to do something, I start to do it and I don't give up. And I assume it's going to take a couple of years to be decent at it, at least. And so I went in with that mentality. A lot of people want the overnight success, right? And that's why things fail. They do 5 podcast episodes and they quit, and they wonder why they don't have any downloads. Well, because you didn't give it enough time to actually grow. And so October 2017 is when I started releasing a weekly episode just to document the journey and to kind of share things as I was learning them. Because of course I'm reading the books and I'm listening to podcasts and I'm watching informative YouTube videos. But when you teach something, you learn it twice, I believe, is what I've heard, right? So if you learn something, sure, it can go in one ear and out the other. But if you have to put that in your own words and teach it to somebody else, now you really got it. And so that was a method for me to learn. And of course, it's become an amazing tool just to connect with an incredible guests. I've talked to Dean Graziosi and Billie Jean is Marketing and Dan Fleischman. I've been able to get meetings and appointments with people who otherwise would probably ignore my emails. And oftentimes they have booking agents reaching out to me and I get to cherry pick who I want to talk to, which is amazing. I mean, how would you get access to someone like a Dean Graziosi in this world or a Russell Brunson without paying thousands of dollars, which I mean, I'm sure some of these mentors, they're definitely absolutely worth it, but it's incredible to have an hour of their time for free, extract a ton of value and share that with an audience. And of course, just over time and just through consistency, now I do 2 episodes a week. Just passed 1 million downloads a month or 2 ago. And dude, that's such a big number. And I didn't even know. I went in to upload the next episode and I saw 1 million, like 6,000 downloads. I'm like, sweet, I should celebrate. I need to post this. I posted it on social media and then I was on to the next thing. But that's also a reminder to everyone, whenever you start something, you hit your goal, usually it's like a moment of happiness, but you're already on to the next, you know? So be satisfied, take a moment to celebrate it, but then get on to the next level. And so that's kind of the journey of the podcast, man. It's been something that I've loved doing and I've just loved connecting with people and just record it and share it like we're doing right now. We're just having a conversation and a few other people are listening in and they're going to catch this later. We can share it with friends and family. And that's where our message can grow and our following can grow because we're adding value out there into the world.
I love it. I love it. Chris, you got it spot on, brother. Congratulations, first of all, on the 1 million downloads. You. One thing I'm just going to invite you to do, go buy yourself a little something, highlight it in a way, not just like, cause like you said, it goes very fast to be like, all right, cool, I got 1 million, then what's next? Idea. But if you're not taking a step back, and it doesn't have to be big, but just highlight it.
You just got to reward yourself a little bit and kind of 100%. Train your mind to become accustomed to winning, to hitting your goals.
Yes.
And having a reason for it. So I love that you mentioned that. I mean, I do treat myself and it's usually something like a tapioca, you know, like a $5 thing that Dave Ramsey would be like, oh my God, that could be $1 million if you just invested it in 50 years. I go and I buy that boba tea because that's kind of like my little cheap meal snack.
There you go.
But you're right. If you buy yourself and you reward yourself something, it motivates you to hit those goals. And it's different for all of us, right? Maybe that's, you close a big deal, you buy yourself that Rolex that you've been wanting. It's different for us all, but it kind of goes back to knowing who you are, what you love and what you value, and then making sure that you take a step back before you just run and chase the next moving target.
That's what it is. It's just taking a step back, appreciating where you came within the journey. And one thing that I do every single time that I close a huge consulting deal with a Fortune 500 or close a deal on a keynote that I'm going to present, whatever the case is, I go buy myself something. And sometimes they're bigger than others, but I always try to make it something physical. So I remember and I create neural associations of that physical thing. Is like, oh, when I did my speech at PepsiCo, oh, that's when I did it at Raymax and whatever. And usually for me, it's suits because I love suits. But like anything like that, it doesn't have to be big, like I said, but creating that neural association. And then this is very important here. What I do when I'm feeling down, because like everybody, it happens, I take a step back and I look at my business, I look at my life, I look at my house, and I'm like, everything that I own here has been bought through what I am doing. So let's just keep on moving forward. This small little dip is not going to stop it because everything here was created with that. So it creates this understanding and this appreciation of what you're doing. So that's my 2 cents on it. I hope it's going to support
I love
you
it,
on
man.
that end.
And even gratitude. Like I wrote this down to remind myself the other day. I have this little whiteboard thing, all the things I'm grateful for, right? So I have like my girlfriend on there, our pets, our families, like where we live, opportunities, the ability to generate quick income. You know, these are all things that we kind of take for granted now because now you make 20 grand a month and you're like, oh, well, that guy's making 50,000 a month, you know? And so it's always a comparison game. But whenever you take a step back and you realize, just like you said, everything around you, you purchase through your efforts and what you're doing. Now, when you feel bummed that you didn't land that $50,000 client, you're like, wait, that was a $20,000 client. That was a $10,000 client. Like I actually had a lot of wins that I need to recognize before I just become unhappy when I look on Instagram at how much more somebody else has.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And yeah, you just nailed it, bro, with the aspect of gratitude. It's the most important thing. if you start your day
Yes.
every single day, just sit down, write 3 things you're blessed about. And you mentioned something within the gratitude, you like your pets. What are your pets, bro? I'm interested to find out. You said pets.
I have a
What kind of pets
tiger.
do you have?
No, just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. Bro, after watching the Netflix thing, I don't know what's happening in the States. Maybe you do
Dude,
have a
you're right.
tiger.
I saw somebody, my brother's a police officer in Houston, and they had to like answer a call. Somebody had a tiger and it was like on the loose in the neighborhood or something crazy.
Bro,
I'm like, dude, and the house was
what's
for sale
happening?
on the MLS or something. I'm like, how are they locking that thing up for showings? I don't know. But I have two like mini tigers. I got two cats and a dog. And so, it was fun putting everybody in a car and taking a U-Haul and driving here from Houston. But I do love pets because before I met my girlfriend and before I had any pets of my own, I lived in a house that I bought by myself. I'd come home, it was quiet. I didn't even have like sofas or couches in the living room for a few months. I was like a true bachelor pad. I just had a bed and like the dishes in the kitchen. And so now it's nice when I come home and like my dog greets me and the cat jumps up on the desk and my girlfriend comes home from work later. It feels a lot more homey where even if you're down, even if you're feeling bored, you go pet the dog
Yes.
or whatever, and you just feel better. Um, so that's been kind of a secret of happiness and gratitude that was missing in my life for some time because childhood dogs died that my parents bought when we were little kids, and then
Yeah.
we never got replacement pets. And just if you're a pet person or if you're not, I really I recommend that you consider getting one or at least being around one because it can change your whole state. You can have the
Yeah.
worst day and your dog comes up happy no matter what happens in the world, right? Terrible news, horrible headlines. Your dog doesn't care. They just are so happy that you're back.
I
You
love
have
that
any pets,
so much.
bro? Do
I
you have any pets
actually
of your own?
I'm not at my like house, but in my condo essentially. But we do have a family dog, which is a boxer, which actually I brought him when I
Awesome.
was living at my parents and love him to death. But now he's an old man. He's 12 years old. So
Yeah, it
yeah,
gets sad because
I
they don't live as long as we do. Maybe I need a
oh my
turtle that
God.
lives 100 or something.
So you know what? Talking about that, I was thinking about this quite often because, like I said, my dog is getting old, and it's inevitable that it's going to happen. And then I'm thinking about it. You know what? I'm like, it's still a blessing if you take it the dog perspective because the dog, like you said, lives imagine 10, 15, 20 years, whatever dog you have.
Yeah,
Their whole life, they're with their masters, so they don't necessarily lose anybody theoretically within their lives. Towards if you have a longer existence on this earth, you see more people come and grow as mortality is present
right.
within us, right? So I'm
That's
like, you know
true.
what? I'm like, they're living
They
happy.
have a
So even
pretty
if
good
they
life.
die, yeah, they do have a pretty good
Their
life.
whole
Not
life was full for the most part, outside of like people who don't take care of their pets
yes,
properly. But if you
yes,
have a great dog owner or pet owner, that's a very great point and a different perspective. Instead of being sad that they leave us so soon, you're like, well, their whole life is amazing because we feed them and spoil them and take them to the dog park or
yeah,
whatever. So I love that because you're right. The longer we live, the more people come and go um, into and out of our life, whether we want them to or not. Right? Just life kind of throws different cards at you, and you have to play with the hand you're dealt, I guess. And you can do stuff to change the game a little bit, but sometimes things happen that are out
you
of our
just have to deal
control.
with it.
We can just
100%.
control how we react to it.
100%. And couple last things because I want to be respectful of your
No, let's
time.
do it. Yeah,
You mentioned one thing that I wanted to highlight. You said, when the dogs come in, they're always happy. And the reason why that is because animals live in the present moment. It's only us as
I
human beings.
love
We live
that.
in the future
I
and we
have
live in the past, right? So
The Power of Now. That's
there
one
we
book
go.
that I'm reading right now, man.
Yeah, it's
Yep, it's on your
probably
shelf
it's
too.
yeah, it's
The
for sure,
present
bro.
moment. Everything is
It's
about the present moment.
it really is. It really is. So, brother, I just want you, first of all, to kind of tell my audience where they could find you. Please mention what the name of your podcast is as well. So, where can they connect with you before we wrap this up?
Thank you so much for the opportunity to kind of name drop and give a little shout out to my podcast. So my podcast is called the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast. Kind of a mouthful. I didn't realize that until I started to type it out a lot. I'm like, this is kind of hard. How do you spell entrepreneur? Like the little typos. And then Instagram, of course, Chris Bello _ is where you can find me. And then if you go to my website, chrisbello.com or chrisbello.com/free, that's where you can get that productivity hacks guide. Just a couple more tips, but I mean, I'm just a nerd about all this stuff. So if you watch my stories or you follow me, you're going to get some little habits and things that I like to share on how I automate, delegate, eliminate, and I accomplish so much by doing so little, really.
Let's go.
So thank you once again for having me on here, man. I really had a good time.
Chris, I mean, we're definitely vibing. I feel like we're brothers from now on, and we're very similar on
For
many things.
sure.
And we're gonna have other conversations coming up very soon.
Absolutely.
Actually, next week, actually, we're speaking again on your podcast. So looking forward to that.
Awesome.
But before I leave you, one last thing, brother. What can I do to support you more? Is there anything that I could do to help you support you anymore?
I appreciate that, man. I've been asking that question more as well because you never know. And I guess if you happen to know any big players in the Denver market or moving to or from Denver or Houston, happy to help them out however I can,
Awesome.
and vice versa, man. How can I help you out? Is there anything right now? I mean, I know I'm going to have you on my show, get you on my platform, but anything else?
I mean, first and foremost, on the Denver and Houston side, definitely my mind, and I have actually a lot of real estate background as well and network. So if I
Perfect.
do hear anything on that end, I'll definitely connect you just because we're vibing, and I'm sure you're going to give a great service. And on
Thank
my end,
you.
brother, just by you showing up here and having this conversation and continuing
Appreciate that.
this connection, and we're going to have the podcast. I mean, you're doing more than enough, brother. So we'll kind of take it from there. And yeah, I just appreciate you like that,
Thank you.
essentially, man.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing, man. I'm like, hey, I don't even have an ask. I don't have a product to sell or anything right now. I'm just putting the good vibes and planting those seeds, and I know they're going to come back.
Honestly,
They just will.
it always is like that, man. I mean, like every time I just give massive value personally, just try to be as most present possible. Then people are like, "Hey, Chris, you're a coach. Hey, can you coach me? Hey, you're a business strategist. Can you help me with this? Hey, do you
Opportunities
do this?"
come your way.
They
Yeah,
really do. You don't need to sell. Just be you. Give massive value. But like you were talking about Gary Vee, which is exactly what you were talking about, the jab, 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 uppercut. That's what it is. You don't ask for something right away. Give as much as
you
you
give it
can,
all away, and it'll
and
come back. Yeah.
100%. So, my
And the,
brother
the
Chris,
frustrating thing is though that you never know when it's going to be. But if you just continue to do it, and you have faith that it's going to happen, it will. But
faith.
sorry to interrupt
No.
you there.
No. It was delicious, bro. It was definitely worth it. Like, I mean, that's what it is. You have to have faith. You just have to believe in it, and that's the life of an entrepreneur, right? There's ups and
Absolutely.
downs. You just have to be stoic in a way, just like you said, living in that now, so you won't be too much caught up on the highs. Be like, oh shit,
Yep.
I'm the king of the world, and then you don't want to be caught up too much on the lows as well. Like, oh my god, I'm the rent, I'm failing. No.
Right.
You try to keep yourself
You got to
balanced. So
regulate it.
exactly. Exactly. That being said, my brother, once again, thank you very much for being on the show. And if you guys have any questions, please message it over here. We'll be answering it as well. It will be on YouTube. So if you guys have any questions for Chris or for myself, we'll be answering it on that end as well. So once again, brother, thank you very much. Have a
Awesome. Thank you,
blessed and
man.
grateful day. All right.
Great
Ciao, ciao.
connecting. Talk soon. Bye bye.